Hello and welcome to part 2 of this Kelly 50 humongous sized amplifier. So in part 1 we'd got up to sorting out this preamp board. Since then I've changed the tube sockets and we said we were going to change them, so they've been changed, and here are the ones that came out of it, which don't look very nice. So we got those changed. Now there's a couple of other things that I want to go through on this amp. One is quickly, and I made a bit of a boo-boo on this amp with the ground scheme. Nothing massively dangerous or anything like that, but just from a noise perspective. So Jeff, who's a watcher of the channel, spotted it. Jeff, who's a watcher of the channel, spotted it, and I'm quite grateful to him for putting me right on that and looking over the shoulder. I'd grounded these. I'd got 2 ground points on this power supply here. This is the original ground point on cap 2 here, and the second can, and this I grounded to here as well, which is where I removed the earth from, the chassis earth, which I put on a separate tag, which was a bit lazy of me as well to do that. So I've removed that from there, and I've grounded it back to here where it was originally now. So that's all sorted out. So thanks for that, Jeff, for spotting that one. And say sometimes you do things and you go back and think, why have I done that? And someone spots it, and I'm always grateful when people point things out. I never get funny about things like that. It's and you never stop learning. So there we go. So that's the result as far as I'm concerned. So thanks for that. And the other thing is now the look on this transformer here. So we've got 3 wires here for the secondary. The black one is obviously the ground, and the green and yellow one are, I would imagine, one's 8 and one's 16 ohms. The problem is it's not marked anywhere. It's not marked on the back, and I'm wondering if this amp had a back panel on it at some point, and someone's removed it. I don't know, but there's nothing on the back, so we don't know which is 8 and 16, which means we're going to have to do a turns ratio to find out which is which on here, because I don't know. So we're going to do a turns ratio test to find that out. Now I would guess that as the yellow is connected to this single jack socket here, that would be 8 ohms, and these would be 16 ohms, because obviously we've got 2 sockets and we can parallel up to 8 from 16. So I've run the amp up, and I've checked the bias on the amp as well. We've got a 37k resistor in there, which is what that pot measured that I took out. The bias is 10 watts and 14 watts, so obviously those test tubes aren't matched up, but we didn't expect them to be. So we've got a bit of work to do there. I just want to bring that bias up into a window, so at least when we get some tubes for this amp. I'm now starting to wire up this second channel, and you can see here I've got this is the original cable. Now on this channel, if we just go back, on this channel the grid stoppers are on the jack sockets, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put the grid stopper on here and put it right up close to the grid pin on the tube, and then we're going to wire a 1 meg grid leak into the socket here and wire it up with this screen cable. So that is the next job. So at least we've got some input into that grid on the second stage of that tube, and then we're going to wire up this mess here, this tone stack, which you can only see the tip of. So we need to wire all of that up. So there's a bit of botchery been going on here. So this wire here connected to this grid, that is connected to the volume on here, which you can't quite see on camera, and that needs to be removed because that should be connected on the from pin 6 going into the coupling capacitor somewhere on here, which actually is this, I do believe is this wire, which they've got floating around there. So we'll just, actually what we'll do is we'll take that off there and make that up and put that on the volume. This one should be coming off the treble pot in the center there. It looks like they've got those back to front. Crazy. And then we're just going to sort the tone stack here. We've got quite a bit of work done now to this amp, and it is nearly finished. So you can see I've got the tone stack wired up here on this side on channel 2, and both of these channels now are running fine, and I've got this second channel how I want it. We fitted a master volume, you can just see him here, but he's got no knob on yet, and that's gone between where the two channels mix in and they go to the grid on the phase inverter. So I've put the master volume between the grid of the phase inverter and where the two channels go into the grid. So I've just, like as if I've cut that feed, popped it in there, and that's working fine. So we've got a good master volume, we've got two good channels working, the amp's really stable now. Right, finally finished this amp and made a few changes. So the first thing I've done in this amp is I've changed the output tubes, and I've put a set of 5881s in this. I quite like those, and yes, this amp won't be as loud, but I'm not bothered because I'm going to use it for a while and I don't really do loud amps. So I've got a set of those in, and we've got those biased up at 16 watts, which is 70% of them at 23%. They're an odd pair that I had, but they've just matched up more or less perfectly. They're a little bit out, but not much. So they're a little bit out, about 0.8 of a watt out, which is more than acceptable for this, so that's good enough for me. Now I've had to make some changes on these drop-in resistors, because this bias circuit is only good for 40 volts, negative 40 volts. So I've ended up dropping the bias resistor for these 5881s. I've changed the 470 ohm resistor there to a 12k. I did put a 10k in, I'd only got a 10k 3 watts. That just left the tubes around about 18 watts, 17, 18 watts, which was just a little bit too much. Could have got away with it. But the 3 watt, when I cranked the amp and put it through on the scope and cranked it, that resistor was starting to smoke, and the maths came out on it. When the amp was idling, the maths came out on it less than a watt. But when it was cranked, it was 1.8 watts. It was a 3 watt resistor. It didn't like it. That is a 6 watt 12k, so that's fine, because you know, we always need to crank the amp and check the maximum current draw on these resistors if you're going to be changing them. And obviously when you increase the resistance, you're going to get more current. So we've left the 3.2 as it is, left the 22 as is, and we have lost a bit of voltage down the line on the phase inverter. We've lost a shade of voltage, not much actually. And this, what I've done here, this 22k, I've reduced it and got the voltage back up on this part at least. I could drop that and get the voltage back up, but we'll see how the amp sounds. But we could drop that to 10k maybe and get the voltage back up. But we're not too concerned about that at the moment, unless, you know, the amp doesn't sound great or something. We'll just leave it. I'm going to go through this preamp section now and just see what I've actually done. So if we look at this tone stack first of all that I've done here, just go in a bit more. If we look at this tone stack, they're not dissimilar. and I've copied this one but changed some of the values. So here on this one we've got, I think these are 0.01s. I can't really see what they are, they're so grubby, but they look like 0.01s. So that the capacitors, and you can just about see that because you know how long this chassis is. So 0.01, 0.01, so the mid cap and the base cap. The I'm trying to look, I can't really see what the, I think that, I can't really see what the tone cap is. On that I can't really see, these components aren't great, but I've got 500 pico on here in place of that one. 500 pico instead of the 0.01s. I've got 22 nanofarad, so 0.022. I've got, now here there's a capacitor there, that's 1 nanofarad, that is 0.01. At 0.001, that's 1 nanofarad. I've kept that the same, but I had to put two 500 picos in parallel because I don't have a 1 nanofarad. So we did that. Now the slope, there's a slope resistor, I presume it's the slope resistor, that is 220k on there. I've got 100k on here, so I've more than half that. And then the mid resistor here is 22k on that one, and there was a 10 on here, and I've left that. So that's what we've done there. What else? We've added the master volume, so we've got that in there, and the master volume has been added between these stages here that are mixed in with these resistors. If you remember, let's just go in to look at the preamp now. So if you remember that these two stages are mixed here with these mixer resistors under here, and then that goes into the phase inverter grid. So the master volume is between these mixers and the grid of the phase inverter. That's the way I've done it. I didn't want to do a post phase master volume, I don't particularly care for those, but so that's that. Now these channels, so we did make some changes on both of them. So here's channel 1 then. We've got, they look like 62k grid stoppers. So channel 1 goes into the grid there, and let's zoom in a bit. So yeah, we're on the zoom. So we've got we've got a 62k, you can't see those, they're on the jack sockets as I said. Into the grid, pin 2. We're coming out of pin 1, and we're going out of pin 1 to this capacitor here, the green one. That's 47 nanofarad. Now that was 68 nanofarad before, so I've reduced that. We haven't got any 68 nanofarad caps anyway. We've got 100 microfarad bypass capacitor on the cathode resistor, which is pin 3. That was originally 60 microfarad, but I've upped that to 100, and the reason is I want to get a bit more difference between these channels. So we're coming out of this coupling capacitor here into the volume, through the tone stack. Then we're coming out of the treble pot, going into the pin 2 on this tube. So channel 1 goes V1 triode 1, V2 triode 1. Then we're coming out of pin 1 there, and we're going into this 47 again, which was 68, it's now 47. And then that goes into the mixer resistors under there, which you can't see very well, you can just see them. The cathode resistor on this triode is 2.2k, same on, they're all 2.2k. The cathode resistors there, and I've changed I did have another 100 on there, 100 microfarad bypass cap, but it was too much, so I've put a 220k nanofarad on there. It was just too bassy. So 220 nanofarad I've put on for this triode here. So that'll be pin 3 of V2 triode 1. So that's that channel. Now channel 2, which we just looked at the tone stack there, we've got a 33k resistor for a grid stopper, which is on the tube there, and we've got a 1 meg grid leak. On channel 1, by the way, we've got a 680 or something like that. I can't quite read the band, but it's close to that anyway. 680, so a bit less than 680k, sorry, a bit less than 1 meg. So 680k on channel 1, 1 meg on channel 2. So channel 2 is going into V1 grid 2. So it goes in there and it comes out of pin 6, it goes to here, to this 22 nanofarad capacitor, which again on the last one was 68, because obviously I want these channels different. So 22 as opposed to 47 on the channel 1. That then goes into the volume, just the same. Out of the volume, out of the tone, just the same. And then that comes in to pin 7, which is on V2 triode 2. And then that goes out of pin 6, goes through a 22 nanofarad capacitor and goes into the mixer. So that's what we've got there. The cathode resistors, again, a 2.2k, and the cathode bypass capacitors are both 10 microfarad on both stages of channel 2. So that's what I've done there. Right, I've got this Kelly on the 4x12 and I've had a bit of a sniffle at it and it sounds very tasty. Put some glasses on so I can see what I'm playing. So we're on the bass channel, or channel 1, and I've got all the controls at 12 o'clock. I've got the master on number 4. Just the most beautiful rich tone. Sounds really nice, really lush. Let's crank this volume now to about number 9 and bring the master down. Now we need a little bit more. Not a lot of top on this channel. That's the bass, sorry. it all in, it gets brighter as the resistance comes off the volume pot. Wow, and even that is so loud, even, you know, I mean, not as loud as it was with the L34s in, they really were ear splitting. Not a lot of gain, but we're not bothered about that. Nice classic 70s rock tone coming out of that there. Let's get a plectrum. So that sounds really nice. That's flat out now, that channel on there, and I have got all the treble in and half of the bass. Let's just take some more bass out. The bass is a bit all or nothing on this control. Take all the bass out. Just fill in a bit. So yeah, just a nice classic rock tone. Just imagine a 59 Les Paul through there. That sounds awesome, absolutely awesome. What a beautiful sounding amp. Let's try the other channel. And you have to be careful because you can actually turn both channels up, either channel up with the volume, so that mixing circuit's ain't very clever. But you just remember to turn that. It only really bothers it once you get this up, this volume up. There's enough resistance that there's only it's only at the very end of that, the volume number 9, number 10, it begins to affect it. So we're halfway up with the master, and we're about number 2 on the volume on that channel. Go half bass and half treble. The strangest thing is this channel sounds bassier almost than this one does, and yet the bypass caps on this are only small compared to that one. Wow, that's just lush. let's dapple with the volume. Let's put the volume right up, number 10. So this channel doesn't have as much gain. Put all the treble in. This channel doesn't have as much gain as channel 1, as the bass channel. Section bass off. Pedal platform channel. That strange, because the way I've wired this, I'd expect this channel to have more gain, but it doesn't. Still sounds very nice though. So now let's go halfway on the volume. Again. Let's go full up on the master. Notice how bright the channel's got. Now the master's full up and we've got the volumes down, so maybe these are only 250k or something, and that being 500. Now that's much brighter. Not as bassy, this channel. Try it on single coil. Full bass. Just can't stitch them together when you're rusty. So still on single coil, let's go. Bassy when you back the master down to number 4 and you've got the channel at number 5, the volume on the channel, should I say. So let's go full up on the volume, bring the master down. So there we go, that sounds very tasty indeed, very tasty. Let's try this channel on the single coil. It's strange that now, this channel's halfway up now on the single coil. It doesn't have near the volume that this channel has, and yet this channel will overdrive, will gain up. Let's get that bass in. Sound. So there we go, that's sounding very tasty. Now I've got this Hawk SG thing which I still want to do a video on. I need some new machine heads on it. Could probably do with a refret. So let's just try this through it. Sounds really tasty. That sounds awesome. Let's try it on the bridge pickup. there. Let's just try it in the other channel. Whoa! That's what I say, this channel's so much brighter, so much louder, and yet it doesn't overdrive. Wow, that's a nice woody tone. Let's try the plectrum. So, Max, bring the master down. Whoops. Quite used to playing this guitar, so feels a bit different to that one. Takes me a minute or two to get the hang of it. Let's crank this channel now. Get some bass out. So one of the things about this guitar is the neck pick, the bridge pickup on this is a bit further forward than on most guitars, and this doesn't sound anything like an SG, and I didn't buy it because, you know, I bought it because it just sounded good. But this pickup's moved a bit further across, so you get a bit of a honky tone out of it, especially on the bottom strings. If you pick what an amazing sounding amp that is. And you can kind of forgive how big it is, and you know, it's not heavy though, it's not a heavy amp, it's quite easy to lug around. It's just a bit of a big old thing, but my word, the sound that's coming out of that is incredible. So there we go, that'll do it for this one. So thanks for watching, you all take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye for now.